Here is the thing about Squid Game that the show understands better than almost any other piece of television in recent memory. The most devastating thing it can do is not kill a character violently. The most devastating thing it can do is kill a character who deserved to survive through a mechanism that was specifically designed to punish the exact qualities that should have protected them. Not bad luck, not incompetent, not a fair loss to a better player. A system that identified what was good about a person and used it against them with surgical precision. That is the real game, and these 7 players lost it in ways that are going to sit with you long after you have finished processing the plot. At least 2 of them are going to make you angry all over again. You have been warned. Ali. Let's start with the most painful one because there is no point in building to it. Ali was physically dominant in a way that changed the outcome of game, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. The tug-of-war sequence is the clearest proof he did not participate in that victory. He manufactured it through pure physical will at the moment when everyone else had run out of anything left to give. He was strong enough to drag a team across the line and decent enough to never once calculate whether that team deserved it. He built alliances fast, read people well, and had the social instincts to make himself genuinely valuable to anyone willing to work with him. In any fair version of these games, those qualities carry you deep. As the numbers thinned out, Ali was going to become a genuine problem for everyone still standing. Everyone except Sang-woo, who looked at everything Ali offered, the strength, the loyalty, the complete absence of suspicion, and saw not a partner but a tool. Ali trusted Sang-soo the way someone trusts another person when they have never been betrayed by someone close to them. Completely, without a backup plan, without the reference point that would have told him what that kind of trust looks like when it gets weaponized. Sang-woo was operating at a level of ruthlessness that Ali was genuinely not built for. And that is not a criticism of Ali. That is the show's most honest statement about what these games actually punish. Ali did not lose because he was weak. He lost because he was good. In a system designed to use goodness against you, that is the most unfair outcome available. Sae-byeok, player 067, ran a masterclass in controlled survival for most of Season 1, and barely anyone noticed because she was doing it quietly, which was exactly the point. While other players were forming visible alliances, drawing attention to themselves, and making emotional decisions that cost them, Sae-byeok was reading the room with a precision nobody else in that facility matched. She spotted the social dynamics before they became problems. She identified which alliances were real and which ones were going to collapse the moment they became inconvenient. She stayed out of everyone's crosshairs, not through luck or protection, but through genuinely superior awareness of what was happening around her. Her backstory makes the case even stronger. She had already survived escaping North Korea alone, with no support network and no safety net. She walked into Squid Game having already demonstrated she could endure things that broke other people. Most players who made it deep into Season 1 had someone watching their back. Sae-byeok was mostly operating alone and still reached the final 3 through skill and restraint alone. She was the player the game was least able to manipulate through the emotional levers it used on everyone else, which made her genuinely dangerous in a way the show never quite gave her enough credit for. The way she left was one of the most brutal moments the show has produced. Not because it was dramatic, but because she had done everything right. She was not outplayed. What ended her run arrived sideways from a direction she had no framework to see coming, after she had already proved she could handle everything the game threw at her directly. She deserved better than that ending. That is simply the truth. Gi-hun's Season 2 Rebellion team. This is a group entry because what happened to the rebellion deserves its own conversation, and a single entry does not cover it. These were players who came in with a completely different motivation from everyone else in that facility. Not to win the money, to stop the games entirely. They assembled under pressure, gathered weapons, moved through a facility full of armed guards, and got further than any outside effort ever had. Each person in that group made a conscious decision to trade their survival odd for something larger than themselves, which is the exact opposite of the logic the games were built on, and the exact reason they deserved to succeed. They were not destroyed because they were wrong. They were not destroyed because they were unprepared. They were destroyed because the person they trusted to help from inside was running a completely different operation the whole time. And the specific cruelty of that betrayal is that it came from someone who had been a player himself. Big Daddy knew exactly what those people were fighting for because he had felt what they were feeling. He chose to use that knowledge knowledge to dismantle them rather than protect them. Watching that happen to a group of people who had committed to something genuinely selfless is one of the most demoralizing things Season 2 produced. They were not playing for money. They were playing for the game to stop. That was the win they deserved, and it was taken from them by someone who had every reason to understand exactly what that cost them. The Marbles Grandpa. This is the one most people have half forgotten, and it genuinely should not be. The elderly man Gi-hun was paired with during the Marbles game, played the entire round in his own world, talking to his late wife, holding on to her through the game, finding a kind of peace in the middle of a sequence where every other player was either panicking or calculating. He won that round with more dignity than almost anyone managed across both seasons. He stayed completely present in something that mattered to him, while chaos operated around him, and the contrast with everyone else in that arena is the most emotionally honest thing Season 1 produced. The show moved past him quickly afterward, which is part of the problem. He deserved a long story. What he showed in that sequence, a person who had already made his peace and chose to spend his final moments doing something real rather than something strategic, is not weakness. That is someone who had already won the version of the game that actually matters. He won his round. He deserved more round. Forgetting him is something the show did. It does not have to be something the audience does. Player 2U2, the pregnant player. Her entry on this list is not about the pregnancy as a dramatic device, because the show already used it that way. Her entry is about what she demonstrated underneath it. She stayed calm in situations that visibly broke other players. She made clear-eyed decisions while managing a level of physical and emotional pressure that nobody else in that facility was dealing with. In the same way, other players had debt and families waiting on the outside. Player 222 had all of that, and a newborn arriving in the middle of a death game, and she still functioned with a clarity that most players around her could not sustain without those additional variables. The moment near the end where she has to make an impossible choice about her child and still acts with precision is the strongest evidence for why she belonged in the final conversation. The show uses her situation for dramatic weight in specific moments and then moves past it, but she was living inside it every second of every game. The fact that she stayed functional through all of it is something the show takes for granted in a way the audience should not. Hwang Jun-ho. Yes, he is a detective and not a player, but this list is about people who deserved to win and did not, and Jun-ho's situation is the show's clearest statement about what the system does to people who are completely right about everything. He infiltrated the staff. He moved through the facility without being caught for the majority of his run. He documented enough evidence to bring the entire operation down. He did all of this alone, with no backup, and with no idea that the person running the whole operation was his own brother. He got closer than anyone operating from the outside ever managed, and then he was shot off a cliff for his trouble and somehow survived that too, which says something about how hard this man refuses to go down. Jun-ho went through the entire operation without cutting corners, without breaking the rules to fight people who were breaking every rule that existed. In retrospect, that made him the most naive person in the entire situation. Not because he was wrong, because the system he was fighting had never once played clean itself, and he was bringing integrity to a game that had none. The answer to what happens when someone does everything right against a system like this is that it is not enough. The games kept running. The VIPs kept watching. Jun-ho is still out there somewhere, alive against every reasonable expectation, with a story that is not finished. If Season 3 does not give him the outcome he has been owed since Season 1, that conversation is going to be loud. 7 players. Ali, because decency cost him everything in a game built to punish it. Sae-byeok, because being controlled and precise was not enough when the chaos arrived from an angle she could not see. The Rebellion team, because they were fighting for something larger than themselves, and the game was not designed to allow that to succeed. The Marbles Grandpa, because the show moved past him faster than he deserved. Player 222, because she never should have been there in the first place. And Jun-ho, because being completely right about everything counts for nothing when the system you are trying to bring down owns every door in the building. Squid Game does not reward the people who deserve to win. That is the entire point, and it is exactly why this list hurts as much as it does. Drop your most painful eliminations in the comments. Who are you still not over? Subscribe if you want more Squid Game content like this, and I will see you in the next one.